Atlantian Mystery Schools. During the timeline of the Atlantian Mystery Schools, each of the 12 tribes held one of the 12 holographic discs containing specific spiritual knowledge about their tribe's affiliation and related ascendancy information that connected into the complete records of the earth as a genetic living library for the cosmos. The caretaking and ongoing preservation of the historical knowledge of humanity's cosmic origins, the ancient wisdom of the Law of One teachings, and the detailed knowledge of the workings of the planetary Templar were entrusted to be guarded by each of the tribes of Magi priest kings. The Magi priest kings were the spiritual leadership and were organized and assembled in rainbow round tables within the Atlantean mystery schools to meditate and unite their consciousness to perform a variety of tasks to protect the Earth's consciousness field. The Magi priest kings met regularly in council settings in order to accurately translate, study, and protect the historical information constantly upgrading on the discs, based upon the genetic histories related to each of the 12 tribes that were originally seated on the Earth. They understood the galactic war in the higher dimensional planes would, in all probability, enter the Earth plane during the shift into the Dark Aeon, and they did whatever they could to preserve the history of the 12 tribes and ancient human civilizations. The historical and genetic knowledge gained from the holographic discs was fully understood to be sourced from the original Universal Emerald Founder records, which detailed the entire angelic human historical timelines and seeding of the solar systems. Therefore, this ancient knowledge was held with the highest spiritual reverence and blessed respect, as these holographic discs were known to be the most sacred wisdom and holy records that belong to all angelic human beings on the earth and beyond. Thus, this ancient wisdom was compiled and administered to by the Magi priest kings and their Essene teams of advanced spiritual initiates that took a role similar to postgraduate scholars working to preserve ancient knowledge for their community and culture. All of the 12 human tribal groups appointed representatives that were working together within the Great Universal Library that functioned as the colony's main academic institution for the public's ongoing education and consciousness exploration, intended for personal spiritual development and fulfilling the divine commission of DNA assembly. In the ancient world before the flood, human civilizations included many great libraries that were filled with repositories of vast amounts of knowledge and wisdom that interconnected between the sciences and spirituality into a single unifying theology that functioned as both universities and spiritual development centers. This was similar to entering a sacred space of which to learn, study, and meditate upon the founder's ancient wisdom within a spiritual temple or monastery setting. The Great Library of Alexandria in Egypt was the last significant library on the earth that acted as the repository for recording what was known about the universal laws and Hermeticism, as translated from and found in the manuscripts copied from the Emerald Founder records. Thus, in the ancient world, Alexandria was the capital of knowledge and true learning, which was modeled directly from those who still remembered the great libraries and educational centers that had existed long before in the Atlantean colonies. Right before the Atlantean flood, the Thothian Luciferians gathered as the Snake Brotherhood kings and made a secret pact called the Luciferian Covenant for the eventual goal of ruling over all of humanity on the earth plane, by further intending to take control over the souls during the death passage. This was a long-term plan which was to be implemented over thousands of years while waiting for the culmination of the Earth's precession in the 2012 and beyond timeline. By intending to take full possession over the Earth's surface during the pinnacle of the ascension cycle. Effectively, they intentionally planned to destroy access to the sacred knowledge of the original Emerald Founder records and obliterate any evidence of ancient builder technologies that were built throughout the advanced human civilizations that had made spectacular achievements in erecting monumental architecture during the flourishing of the Atlantian colonies. Thus, they intentionally destroyed access to advanced technology through the orchestration of a terrible cataclysm that would return humanity back into the Dark Ages and subject them to mind wipe, in which they would lose awareness of their previous history and true identity. This was orchestrated during the time cycle when the Earth would be traveling within its darkest phase in the lowest density vibration, right after the tragic events of the Luciferian rebellion. The intruder races exploited this extremely dark phase during the Dark Eon to install an array of dark alien technology in order to render humanity into slaves and eventually rule as the unchallenged gods of the earth that would continue to carry over into the future time cycles. Thus, the Brotherhood of the Snake secretly and methodically infiltrated the Atlantian mystery schools and the great libraries in order to acquire all of the Law of One and human tribal knowledge for themselves, before intentionally confiscating the records that were in the possession of the Magi Grail kings in their planned takeover of the earth. Effectively, they were stealing knowledge crystals and meticulously copying over the Essene ancient written translations that contained the original Emerald Founder holographic records in order to use that knowledge as a consciousness weapon against humanity. During the aftermath of the Atlantean cataclysm, some of these founder record translations were captured and inverted for the purposes of falsifying the historical records. This information was twisted in order to set forth an assortment of imposter-generated, falsified belief systems that were then groomed into the negative alien-based religions. The main purpose was to ensure that the original founder records and sacred wisdom was not made directly available to the angelic human races, and to set forth a new groundwork of control through designing belief systems, fed through sequential releases of this spiritual information to be made increasingly public. External corrupt authorities were assigned responsibility for disseminating and controlling all of the spiritual interpretations and translations that were made available to educate the general population, denying the general population direct access to knowledge and advanced information. They intentionally hid it and lied about it, a strategy still in use today. The goal was that the Thothian group behind the Brotherhood of the Snake would continually maintain control over how, what, and when. Particular knowledge from the founder records would be disseminated to the masses, and to slowly package it as a worldwide religious control mechanism, essentially taking the founder records and weaponizing them into a fear-based narrative that would be enforced by threats or shaming by some externally created authority hidden behind the religious or dogmatic structure. Further, they would install their own rulership in the pyramidal hierarchical control of these organizations, where the negative aliens would set themselves up to be the capstone monarch and worshipped as the one true God. From this setup with the embedded mind control mechanism, they could pick and choose what human groups were being most compliant to serve the negative alien agenda from the alien hybrid bloodlines, and they would give them access to the higher knowledge, while the genetic undesirables were in those groups that would be dumbed down into the slave class, further generating division and DNA digression in the 12 tribes through perpetuating the master-slave archetypes.